IESCO offices. My name is Rob George, this is Chris Hoynes, and we are here today to show how to make a tracing of a can while it's on the building if for any reason the face is not traceable, if it fell down and broke, it's not available, wind blew away, what have you. Now I understand the first thing anybody's going to say is you guys are in a controlled environment. That makes it look so much easier. We've been doing this for a while, and the process is tried and true. It does make it a little bit trickier when there's a little bit of wind out, but hopefully this will simplify what you're currently doing and will provide us with the tracings that are necessary to get it as exact as possible. So Chris is here to help me out, and he is going to show you how to attach the paper. Essentially what you want to do is just kind of get an idea of the overall dimensions of the can, come back down, cut your paper to size so that you're a good couple of inches in excess of the size of the can. This way you have something to tape it down to and get the paper taut. So we've already pre-cut a piece here, which we're going to overlay over top of the can. Chris is just preparing some tape.
Old habit of being in the print room. You can never have too much.
So first and foremost, you're going to start on your straight edges. He'll start at the bottom, I'll start at the top here. And just trying to pull it taut. Usually it's done by one person, so he's lucky I'm holding it. You just want to make sure that when you're actually attaching the second side, you're not pulling it too tight to flex the can. So you just want to have it just enough as to where the paper is taut, but you're not actually pulling at the sign face so that it's flexing in.
It's always easier to start on a straight edge. We'll get to the curves here in a minute, but really the idea here is just to get it to where we've got a nice tight surface to trace from.
Now the challenge typically comes in where there's any curved sections of the sign face. So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to do what Chris is doing, but you probably can't see this, is he's just basically taping down at the furthest point of each part of the can. When you're going around the curves, there is a way to simplify that, and I'll let Chris show you that.
Yeah, so basically we've got it kind of tight on the four main points. Every letter is going to be a little bit different, but still here it's not really nice. So what we're actually going to end up doing is just go up to the can with any straight edge we really do, cut a nice little point, just to make a nice little strip. So at that point you're going to be able to essentially do the same thing, take a little tape, pull it nice and tight, and that's going to just smooth this out slightly. Don't want to do that too much, just enough to get to where we got kind of a nice little finish here to where everything's, like over here is still a little bit loose, so we're going to do the same thing up at the top corner. You want to do it?
I'll actually turn it around to do it so you guys can see from this side.
So now at this point we actually have the paper up here. It's pretty nice. It's a good smooth surface. It should allow us to get a nice rubbing of the can. For that you can use a lot of different things. In a pinch, we've even had people reach down and grab mulch out of a garden bed. Not recommended, but you got to do what you have to do sometimes. Anything that's got a nice long preferably like an oil-based type marking pencil that you can get a nice long straight edge, because what we're actually going to do, instead of coming at it from up above, we're actually going to take it and use that edge to just run along the edge of our can. So what ends up happening, this is one of those situations where kind of lighter is better. because you don't want to create a real thick, deep line. We're just trying to get the rubbing of the can. So kind of as you're going along the edge, as you're kind of pushing down, you'll get a feel for it. But it should create a nice, smooth line that is going to be clearly distinguishable by anybody that's making the letter. You can't really see on this side, but it's creating a really nice straight line that we're going to be able to follow to make the channel letter face. Ideally, we don't have this come all the way up. That was my mistake, but we should be able to just go like that and get a nice, still continue it along. All right, so pretty close to having the outside done. We're going to do the same thing on the inside of the can. If you do have a spot that gets a little bit funny, make sure that it's marked clearly, even if you have to come back and redraw it after the fact, because we do want to have a nice crisp line. We don't want to, if there's 3 or 4 different marks and you're bringing it back for somebody to make a face, they don't really know which one is the line that they're supposed to cut unless it's clearly identified.
In most cases, it's going to be the darkest line is the line that's going to be used. As you can see, especially when doing the inside of these, it makes it a little bit more difficult to get a defined line. You're going to have a little bit of overrun, whether you're using charcoal, whether you're using a pen like this, crayon, bark, whatever. But it's always going to be the most defined line. So again, Chris said if you need to go back over it, you know which one of those lines is the line, run back over it after you've removed it and everything's top of mind. Because we're always going to run off the darkest line possible. And if it's not otherwise marked, that's what we're going to use. It's usually pretty clear, but you know there is cases where it's kind of like we need to make a phone call. Now, once you're in a process and you're running through a lot of these, and you know you're doing a whole set, it's a little bit more time consuming compared to just a standard channel letter tracing. But by far and away, this is the best method that we've found to date, and does produce a really good result. So just make sure that when you are quoting these out, to ensure just that little bit of extra time compared to any other face replacement.
So we've gone around the entire letter. We should have a nice tracing at this point. Go ahead and pull off the tape from your pattern, so you're not completely destroying your pattern, because the longer the tape sits on there, the more it's going to bite in. So any spots that you did have to cut along the edge, let's just make sure, as a good practice, just to kind of retape them, to keep them from just completely to continue to tear. We want to stop that, to keep our pattern as nice as possible. So any spots that we had to cut for around a corner, go ahead and retape it. Just along the edge, you can still see the pattern, and at the end we should have a really nice result. Very clear lines that anybody that's making the face should be able to identify and go. The last thing that's just kind of a good practice when you're doing this, we send all of our techs out with essentially just a trim cap color sample. We want them to be able to identify which trim cap we need to use. So in this particular situation, we're going to use Hunter Green, 1 inch. 1 inch trim cap. Just so it's identified and there's no guessing game. Same thing, get a color sample book from any of your manufacturers, from Glance or whoever, Grimco, whoever you want to use. They should be able to provide it for you. And then the third piece is just essentially a translucent color book to be able to identify any color that's being used. Typically we just send them out with 3M because it's the most commonly used, just to get as close as possible. So another good practice is just to put the job number. So just job number 1234 is what I put. The acrylic color, so in this particular situation, we're going to do white, 0.177 white acrylic. And if there is a vinyl color that needs to be used, specifying which vinyl color it is and making that determination. So in this particular situation, it's just 3M green 3630-26. And most of the time when we're doing a face replacement, this is going to be a little bit more difficult because the face is faded. You're going to be comparing it to something that's old, so it's probably not going to match really close, but still, the more information, the better. Rob, do you have anything to add?
Absolutely. So anything that we're doing face up, as you guys know from our last video, we say everything face down. If you don't have faces, obviously, you're tracing the can. Mark on here very clearly, it is a tracing of the can and not a tracing of the face. So otherwise we are going to produce it all wrong.
All right. We appreciate you guys. What are you trying to do? She's trying to, our photographer's trying to get in here just to show tracing of the cam, the job number, what color acrylic, if it's got a vinyl overlay, trim cap color. We've got a nice finished tracing that we should be able to get a really nice result.
If anybody has any questions at all, do not hesitate to call us here at the Yesco Kansas City office. Myself, Chris, Travis, and any one of us would be happy to help you run through any of the details. If you need any additional assistance, any additional videos, we're happy to help. The one last thing that I will leave you with is if we can please ask that everybody roll your tracings and provide them in a rolled state rather than folded up. It makes life so much simpler on you, on us, and makes things a lot cleaner. Other than that, I think that's everything.